Hello and welcome everyone to this edition of Weekly Roundup. I am Siddharth Sankar and I will be taking this session. So in this session, we will be covering 5 important news, okay, which are main news, and some quick updates and then places in news. Okay, so the important main news are 2 new Ramsar sites has been added in India, okay, and then Viksit Bharat Ji Ramji bill has been passed by the Parliament. One more important bill, SHANTI bill has also been approved by the Parliament from both houses, okay, and then a report on the public R&D institutions, and then challenges faced by the WTO. Then we will be covering places in news called Ethiopia for this session, and then we will be covering some quick updates. Okay, so without wasting any time, let us start directly. So today, the first main news is related to Ramsar site. Okay, so the context is that 2 more wetlands have been added to the Ramsar site. What is Ramsar site? We will discuss some of them in detail. Okay, what do you mean by wetlands? What is wetlands of international importance? We will be discussing all these things in this topic. But before it, just try to understand that this can be related to the topic of environmental conservation. Okay, this topic is related to basically environment. Okay, so as you know the context, 2 new sites have been added. Which are these 2 sites? First is Silisar Lake in Rajasthan and then Kopra Reservoir in Chhattisgarh. Okay, so just remember a small point that now the total Ramsar site is 96. UPSC has this habit of asking or exaggerating this number. They can ask that there are more than 500 sites of Ramsar in India. Okay, so just keep this in mind. This number is not very important, but just have a look that presently it is around 100. Okay, actual number is 96. So these 2 lakes have been added to the list of wetlands of international importance. So this Ramsar list is also known as list of wetlands of international importance. Okay, first we will understand the development in brief about these 2, and then we will delve deeper into this wetlands, what are wetlands, what is meant by wide use of wetlands, and what are the criteria for inclusion in this Ramsar list. Are there any criteria or not? Okay, so let us move forward towards Silisar Lake in Rajasthan. Now see, this is the Silisar Lake which is based in Rajasthan in the Alwar district. Okay, whenever you are reading a question related to environment, try to map it, the location of this place. Okay, so a question can be asked that it is located near the Sariska Tiger Reserve, or some other tiger reserve of Rajasthan may be given over here. Okay, the question can be framed as such. Okay, so remember just it is in Rajasthan in the Alwar district in the semi-arid region, and it falls in the buffer region of Sariska Tiger Reserve. Okay, now it is a human-made wetland. Why it is a human-made wetland? Because it was created by the king. The Maharaja Vijay Singh created this, basically the wetland. He wanted to supply the water to his population. That is why he created this, and it is based on this river Rupee. Okay, so just 2 to 3 points about Silisar Lake, Rajasthan, human-made wetland by Maharaja Vijay Singh, and then Sariska Tiger Reserve. Okay, these points you should keep in your mind along with river Rupee. Okay, this has been included in the Ramsar list. This is from Rajasthan. Now, moving towards the next reservoir which has been included in the Ramsar list. It is from Chhattisgarh. Okay, just remember this point. Kopra Jalasay, Kopra Reservoir, it is from Chhattisgarh, and it falls in the upper catchment region of the river Mahanadi. Okay, so it is in Chhattisgarh, it falls in the catchment region of the upper catchment region of the river Mahanadi, and see, you can see this reservoir here also. And what are the biodiversity here? Egyptian vulture, bar-headed goose are being seen. Okay. Now, the most important thing is that what is meant by this Ramsar list, okay, and why it has been proposed, what does it do, which kind of body it is, these kind of things you should know, whether it is an NGO, whether it is a non-profit organization, because many questions recently have been asked in this way. Okay, so about Ramsar list, first we will know. Ramsar is a place in Iran, okay, and it is based on the Convention of Wetlands adopted in Ramsar, Iran in 1971. Okay, and see, it has a lot of members. Around 90% of the UN members are means signatory to Ramsar. India is also a member. India is a member, keep this in mind. Of course, India is a member, and it's so many wetlands have been included in this list. Now, what is the criteria? Is it based on some criteria, or a country itself can recommend its wetlands to the Ramsar list? So it is based on some criteria. Okay, remember these kind of points. It is based on 9 criteria. Okay, it is related to, basically the criteria are related to the richness of plant and animal species, okay, or some kind of different unique characteristics of wetland is there, some fishes are there, okay, so these kind of things are there in this criteria. Now we will see, we have discussed a lot about Ramsar list and the lakes which have been included. First we will understand the basic concept, okay, about what is meant by wetland. Okay, so if you see here, this is Ramsar Convention and this is definition of wetland. Okay, so as I have already said, Ramsar Convention is related to wetlands of international importance. This and wetlands of international importance are same. Okay, there is a list. So what is the definition of wetlands according to Ramsar Convention? Okay, just keep 2 things in mind. Low tide does not exceed 6 meters. Okay, these 2 words in mind. Now we will read the definition of wetlands as given by the Ramsar Convention. Areas of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. So it is a very standard definition, and if you see, it is very broad definition also. So suppose a question is asked, can this be included in wetland, and you don't know, but if you think there are chances, then you can take risk on those kind of options, because it is very broad. Even artificial or even made, I said you that even human made wetland, the first one, Silisar Lake in Rajasthan, is a human made, but it has been included in this list. Okay, then permanent or temporary, static or flowing, keep these things in mind. And then this low tide does not exceed, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. You must be knowing tides, isn't it? Low tide and high tide means high tide, the height is higher, and the low tide, the height is lower. Okay, and it is caused because of the gravitational pull of the sun and moon. Okay, so these kind of things you should remember. Now, basically, if you see what is meant by wetland, it is where water is the primary factor. Okay, water becomes the more primary factor. Suppose if there is a land and even the it is merging with the rivers, but it remains water clogged because of the river water, that place can be considered a wetland. Okay, and you can see freshwater marine, basically a repetition only, just for you to keep in mind that mangroves, coral reefs, estuaries, deltas, they are all considered as wetlands. So suppose a question is asked, which one of the following is considered a wetland, you have to keep these things in mind. Now we will see why there is so much importance which is being given to wetland conservation. Okay, actually what happens is that Ramsar provides for wise use of wetlands. Okay, means it considers that the wetlands should be protected or conserved with wiseness. Okay, wise means you all know buddhimata, wisdom, and all these things. So wise use of wetlands means basically that ecological approach, okay, or ecosystem approach. Okay, these are considered. You can say that it considers the nearby contiguous regions, the catchment area. So these are considered as wise use of wetlands. Now, what are the roles of wetlands? You will see that some questions previously have been asked that what is the importance of wetlands. Okay, so in that case, just remember some of the keywords. Okay, this is very big, but remember just some of the keywords. Okay, what role does wetlands play for the environment? Okay, so the first one is it is a principal source of fresh water. Okay, natural storage reservoir. Okay, so it can buffer for floods and droughts. Buffer for floods and droughts, natural storage reservoirs. Okay, mangroves, coral reefs can mitigate the impact of tropical cyclones, isn't it? You must have heard that tsunami was able to impact less in those regions where they have these. Okay, now peatlands, they help in mitigating climate change impacts. So greenhouse gases. So just try to remember greenhouse gases, natural storage reservoir. Okay, then climate change impact is less. Okay, then in richness. Okay, you must have studied about ecotone. Okay, where the number of species are much more higher because they are in the transition zone between two. Okay, they purify water also. So just keep these things in mind whenever a question is asked, what is the role of wetlands, what role do wetlands play? So these you can answer from picking some of the keywords from here. Okay, now we will see the previous year questions which have been asked, isn't it? Whenever you read a topic, try to think in terms of questions, because that is all which UPSC asks, whether in prelims, whether in mains or in the interview. Whenever you are reading a topic, try to understand what questions can be raised from this perspective in prelims, in mains or in interview. Okay, so see, we will see the question. The question is, a 2014 question has been asked with reference to a conservation organization called Wetland International. Which of the following statements is or are correct? First is, it is an intergovernmental organization formed by the countries which are signatories to Ramsar Convention. Second statement is, it works at the field level to develop and mobilize knowledge and use the practical experience to advocate for better policies. Then select the correct answer using the code given below. A1 only, B2 only, C both 1 and 2, and D neither 1 nor 2. Now see, Wetland International is different from wetlands of international importance. Okay, but that UPSC is very clever. It is just trying to confuse you, because Wetland International, it is just a kind of NPO, non-profit organization, which has been formed much earlier than Ramsar of 1970s. So this statement is basically wrong. Okay. The second statement, you can see that if you apply your normal common sense, it works at the field level to develop and mobilize knowledge. So it can be considered correct. Okay, so here the answer is 2 only. Now one more question in 2019. Consider the following statements. The first statement is, under Ramsar Convention, it is mandatory on the part of the government of India to protect and conserve all the wetlands in the territory of India. Okay. Second statement, the Wetlands Conservation and Management Rules 2010 were framed by the government of India based on the recommendations of the Ramsar Convention. Okay. The Wetland Conservation and Management Rules 2010 also encompasses the drainage area or the catchment regions of the wetlands as determined by the authority. Now there are 3 statements. You must be knowing that earlier that these kind of statements were considered to be extreme and these were wrong. However, in this statement, if you see, although Ramsar Conventions calls contracting parties to conserve all the wetlands, but it is not mandatory. Okay, means binding as such mandatory binding obligation is not there on the state parties. So this statement is wrong. The second, wetland conservation rules were framed by the government of India. So it is not basically true, because these were not based on any Ramsar Convention recommendation or something like that. Okay, India acceded to Ramsar Convention much earlier. And the third statement, I said you that if you are trying to save a particular species, a particular kind of wetland, national park, wildlife sanctuaries, nowadays what is happening is that we are considering the contiguous region, the regions nearby. Okay, so if you want to save or protect a particular wetland, so nearby areas or its catchment regions should also be considered to be protected. Only then a landscape approach, or as I said in Ramsar, ecosystem approach can be followed to ensure ecological balance. Okay, so this statement is true. So the answer is 3 only. Okay, now we will see one more question which has been asked from the Ramsar sites. Okay, consider the following pairs: wetlands and lakes and location. It is basically asking the location. Hokera wetland, Punjab; Renuka wetland, Himachal Pradesh; Rudrasagar, Tripura; and Sastam Kota, Tamil Nadu. Okay, and it is asking you to map the location. That is why I said you that whenever you come across these things, please try to read and please try to pin where this is based. Okay, some of them which are in very much prominently in news you can remember. Okay, so Hokera wetland is basically in Srinagar, so this is wrong. And Renuka is in Himachal Pradesh, Rudrasagar is in Tripura, and Sastam Kota is not in Tamil Nadu, it is in Kerala. You can see that UPSC is very smart and it is giving very close options that nearby a state itself. Okay, so only 2 pairs are correct. So try to map some of the important Ramsar sites or the wetlands, whichever is in news. Silisar Lake, okay, Kopra Reservoir. So this is why I have kept this question. Now, we will also see the mains questions which have been asked from this topic. Okay, the first question, 2018, what is a wetland? Explain the Ramsar concept of wise use in the context of wetland conservation and cite 2 examples from Ramsar sites from India. Okay, so I have already explained you what is a wetland, basically land and water. Okay, even rice paddy field are also considered as wetlands, mangroves, coral reefs, peatlands. Okay, so the definition is very much wide over here, or you can also say that as per Ramsar Convention, these all things which do not cross the height of 6 meters at low tide are considered as wetlands. So that will add value to your answer if you write as per Ramsar Convention definition is this. Now explain the concept of wise use. Okay, so whenever these kind of things are being asked, sometime you may be prepared, sometime you may not be. So try to use those keywords related to wetlands. Okay, those ecological balance, ecosystem approach, landscape approach, catchment regions. So these are known as wise use. Okay, or you can use some other keywords also which suits this concept. If you don't know, give 2 examples. So if you remember these 2 sites, you can give. Okay, one more word is there known as Montreux's record. Okay, so those wetlands which are there in Ramsar list, but they are facing too much of danger, so they are being kept in Montreal record. Okay, earlier India's Chilka Lake was kept in Montreal record, but then it was subsequently removed because a lot of conservation efforts was undertaken. Okay, so keep these words in mind. Second question. In 2023, comment on the National Wetland Conservation Program initiated by the Government of India and name a few India's wetland of international importance. See, give 2 examples, name a few India's wetlands to international importance. Okay, and you have to tell about National Wetland Conservation Program. Actually, this program has been now named as National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems. Okay, what happened is that it merges 2 programs related to wetland and lakes. This one. Okay. So you have to comment about National Wetland Conservation Program. You can talk about the importance, why it has been brought, or 1 to 2 features about it, and then you have to name a few India's wetlands. Okay. So now let us start with the second main news. And the second main news, as we discussed, is that Parliament has passed this Viksit Bharat Ji Ramji bill. Okay. Basically, it is an amendment of earlier MG Narega bill. Okay. So this topic you can link with the GS3 section, Indian economy, especially to employment. And MG Narega is related especially to rural employment. So first we will see what is the context and then key features, and then we will also try to compare, okay, how the earlier one is different and how what changes has been brought in. Okay, so that you can have a clear picture about this. Okay, so first, as you already know, the context is that the Viksit Bharat. So the name is Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin. Okay. Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika. Okay. So it is VBG Ram G. Here G stands for Gramin. Okay. It seeks to replace the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MG Narega 2005. And when it will get approval from the president, both the houses have already passed this bill, Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha. So a state governments will then have to notify a scheme consistent with the bill, because the earlier a scheme might be must have been consistent with the MG Narega. So a state government have to notify, of course, a scheme consistent with the bill within 6 months. Okay, within 6 months, because 6 months sometime you take time, isn't it, to bring in changes, because the changes are very stark. Okay, there are very too many important changes which has been brought through this bill. Okay, so first we will understand what are the key features. Okay, so key features is, first is employment guarantee. Earlier the total number of days of employment guarantee was 100 days. Now it has been increased to 125 days. Okay, so try to remember these kind of things per financial year to every rural household who are volunteering to do this unskilled manual work. Okay, so what is the eligibility? That any rural household, if they want to volunteer or undertake unskilled manual work, they can get job under this scheme for 125 days. Earlier it was 100 days. Okay, suspension. There is a provision which has been incorporated for suspension of this scheme as well. And who can do this suspension? A state government. For how many days? Up to 60 days. In what time? During the time of for availability of agriculture labor. So suppose there is a state, okay, and they see that there are no workers available for agricultural labors, or they are engaged, they find it better to be engaged in VBG Ramji scheme, then a state governments can suspend it for 60 days so that the availability of agricultural labor remains steady. Okay, please remember the question will be asked. Generally, this all will be knowing. The question will be asked here. They will give you option as central government. So here, please keep in mind, a state government can suspend, not the central government. Okay. Now, durable asset creation. Earlier, what used to happen is that under MG Narega, those who were working, they used to create a lot of things, okay, related to rural works, okay, banks, embankments, or something like that. Okay. Now there are a strict 4 priority themes have been added. Okay. What are those 4 priority themes? Water security, core rural infrastructure, livelihood related infrastructure, and work for extreme weather events, okay, such as cyclones. So these can also be added. So please try to remember these things strictly, because here what will happen, they will give you one option different, and then they will ask you what are those priority schemes. So keep this in mind: water security, core rural infrastructure, livelihood related infrastructure, and then a special works for extreme weather events. Okay, they will make questions. UPSC will make question that it provides for water security but fails to ensure a special works for extreme weather events? And the answer will be no. It provides for extreme weather events as well. It provides for water security as well. So keep things in mind, very minute details, okay, because sometimes UPSC doesn't ask things which are very well known, but they will ask some minute details of very well known schemes. Okay. Now, what is the architecture? How it will be planned? Okay. So it has got Viksit Gram Panchayat plans prepared by Gram Panchayat, and they will be integrated with the PM Gati Shakti scheme. Okay, and there will be a stack. A stack is known as Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack, and they will coordinate it. Okay, Panchayat will be graded based on development levels. Higher allocations towards underperforming Panchayat to reduce regional disparities. Okay, we will discuss this in detail. Higher allocations means the funding pattern is getting changed. Okay, earlier it was kind of demand based, and now it is being done through a normative funding. Normative funding means first center will decide on a state basis that what budget should be allocated for a particular state as per BBG Ramji scheme. Okay, keep these things in mind. These are very important developments. Okay, and then the institutional oversight. These kind of questions have been recently being asked more. Okay, means the governance aspect of a particular bill. Okay, so here central and state Gramin Rozgar Guarantee Councils, they will be reviewing the scheme implementation. Central and state Gramin Rozgar Guarantee schemes means there will be guarantee councils at center as well as a state level. National and state level steering committees will also be there, and they will provide recommendations. Okay, then transparency and monitoring, these are general points you will be able to remember. Social audit, earlier also it was there, now also it is there. So keep this in mind: central and state Gramin Rozgar Guarantee Councils, steering committees, social audit. Okay. Now we will see what are the changes which has been brought in the funding pattern. Okay. So earlier it was, now it will be a central sponsored scheme. Okay, so in central sponsored scheme, what happened is that basically center and states both contribute. So in this case, what will happen is that 90:10 is for northeastern states or northeastern and Himalayan states. Okay, and in Himalayan states, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, and Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, here 90:10. Then 60:40. So 60 will be done by the union and 40 will be done by the state. And then 100% central funding for UTs without legislature, means states which don't have legislatures, sorry, UTs which don't have legislature, they will receive 100% of the central funding. Okay. Now, remember one more point here. It is that the state government will continue to pay the entire unemployment allowance. See, please remember this. This is very important. Entire unemployment allowance under BBG Ramji scheme will be paid by the state government. Okay. Now what changes? Okay. A very brief comparison of MG Narega along with Viksit Bharat Ji Ramji bill. 100 days, 125 days. Multiple and scattered categories, I have already said you, there are 4 major categories. Then center bears unskilled wage cost. It used to be bear by the center, now it has changed. I have already explained 60:40 for most states, 90:10 for certain. So a special category states such as Northeast states and Himalayan states. Okay. No pause window. Earlier there was no pause window. Now there are 60 days of pause window. I said it was demand based funding, means unpredictable allocation. As the demand get created from the states, so they demanded that it should be paid to the worker, okay, under Manrega. Now normative funding means predictable budgeting will be there. Okay. Then Gram Panchayat planning is central. Here it will integrate with various other institutions also, as I said you, related to Gramin Councils and the National Steering Committee, PM Gati Shakti and all. Okay. Now we will see in brief, means I have kept this because it is a good picture. This you can remember. Okay, 90:60:40, then 100 in UTs without legislature. Okay, and then this financial allocation, normative allocation is now being done, and then a state responsibility, unemployment allowance is only a state responsibility. So keep these things in your mind. There are very high chances that a question can be asked if it gets the assent of the president. Okay. Now we will see a question which has been asked in previous year question related to MG Narega. Okay, so the question is, among the following, who are eligible to benefit from the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act? Okay, so the options are adult members of only the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes households, adult members of below poverty line households, adult members of households of all backward communities, and adult members of any household. Okay, so you can see I have taught you, but I have never mentioned it that it is only for this or this. Okay, so the answer is basically adult members of any households of rural area. If they are volunteering for this unskilled work, they were entitled. Okay, so keep these things in mind what have changed. Okay, this has very less utility in mains perspective, but you can say that recently, if you see, you might be reading some newspaper or magazines, there were talks of urban Manrega. Okay, to tackle the urban poverty or the urban unemployment which has been rising. Okay, so these kind of points you should use. Or if you are talking about some resource utilization or public utilization of fund, then you can say that normative budgeting introduced in the VBG Ramji bill is a step in the right direction. Okay, so these try to utilize whatever content you have at multiple places. Okay. Now let us start with the third main news, which is Parliament has passed the SHANTI bill. Okay, so basically SHANTI stands for Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India. Okay, so in brief it is known as SHANTI bill. So it has been passed by the Parliament, and the topic from which questions can be asked related to this theme is GS3, Science and Tech, achievements of Indians in science and technology, indigenization of technology, or development of new technology. Okay, or even renewable, non-renewable energy can also be considered under this component. So basically, what has happened is that Parliament recently gave its approval for SHANTI bill. Okay. Basically, the main aim of this bill is to repeal Atomic Energy Act 1962 and Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. Okay. So earlier, many things were being done by Atomic Energy Act. They were regulated under Atomic Energy Act 1962, and it was very earlier, means act was formed very too early. So, and then this 2010 act is related to liability. Okay, so basically the bill aim is to repeal this act and then form a new. Okay, so what is the main provisions, means what the bill aims to achieve through this SHANTI bill is that earlier there have been many talks that the sector should be open to the private sector as well. Okay, because at times what happens is that a long gestation period is being taken for a nuclear plant to come alive. Okay, so in this bill, it is opening nuclear sector to non-government employees, including Indian private companies, joint ventures between government entities and private companies. Okay, so keep these words, joint ventures are also allowed, and it is also being open to Indian private companies. Then a statutory status is being given to Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. Okay, so this is a board, basically it is related to, it governs radiation related issues in these kind of energies. So Atomic Energy Regulatory Board has been granted a statutory status as per this bill. Okay, so if the question is asked, Atomic Energy Regulatory Board was granted a status in 1975, so the answer is wrong. Okay, this bill, SHANTI bill, is giving the statutory status to AERB. Okay. Now, there is a advisory council also, which will be established to hear appeals against the decisions of the center. So if suppose center has taken some decisions or AERB has given some decision, okay, So basically, sometimes what happens is that the decisions are taken by these authorities. So if private sector is coming into the picture, earlier it was basically owned and operated by government entities only. So if private sector is coming into the picture, so where they will go? So there are Atomic Energy Redressal Advisory Council. Okay, so there are mechanisms for dispute resolution. Okay, we will see when we will study about WTO, we will see why there are issues. Okay, so these kind of appeals mechanism are there. If there is appeal against this, so it lies before the appellate tribunal for electricity. Okay, so see, the name is very confusing here, and you will say the answer is wrong. If UPSC asks the appeals of the Atomic Energy Redressal Advisory Council lies before appellate tribunal for electricity, you will start to think that why it should be related to electricity, there should be something related to nuclear, and the statement is wrong. Okay, so try to remember these kind of unique things whenever you come across. Okay, so there are just 2 to 3 things: a statutory status, redressal advisory council is there, and then appeal against them will lie before the appellate tribunal for electricity. Okay, now we will see that how the liability mechanism has been changed. Okay, means if someone is operating a nuclear plant, then there must be some liability, isn't it? Because the safety is very much important, paramount for these things to work properly, isn't it? So earlier there was a flat liability of 1500 crore. So if something bad happened, there was a flat liability of 1500 crore. So it replaces that and introduces a liability limit ranging from 100 crore to 3000 crore. So keep this in mind. Based on the reactor power capacity of how much megawatt it is, it has been changed from earlier flat rate was there. So this flat rate has been done away with this tiered liability mechanism. Okay, because if there are less a very low reactor is there or plant is being operated, so there is less liability for them. Okay, so they can come in and then start their businesses. Okay, then central government bears liability beyond operator's cap. So if this operator cap goes beyond, okay, so if there are liability which goes beyond this cap, then central liability will be bearing those liability. Okay, and a nuclear liability fund for the same will be created. And no fault liability has been retained. Insurance requirements for operator still continues. Of course, they have to work with insurance, isn't it? Big companies. Now, operator's right of recourse. Okay, the bill removes right of recourse for defective equipment and deliberate acts causing damage previously allowed under this act. Okay, so right of recourse for defective equipment has been removed. Basically, what happened is that, means if there were some wrongful supply of material, so the plant or the companies could have taken this right of recourse and they could have recovered those amounts. So it removes the right of recourse. Okay, please remember, the bill removes the right of recourse. Territorial scope of compensation, this is also very, very important word. It has been extended to nuclear damage in foreign territories caused by incidents in India. So if there is an incident which is happening in India, but it is leading to damage in foreign countries as well, so territorial scope of compensation has been kept. Okay, and it covers not only the damage in India but also damage in the foreign territories. Okay, you will a statement can be created. I already said you, whenever you read something, try to think how the question of prelims or the mains can be made, or what the examiner is trying to extract. They can say that its territorial scope has been limited because only incidents in India or the damage in India will be taken care of. So no, damage in foreign territories has also been included. Okay, now we will see some basic facts related to nuclear energy. Okay, so India presently have around 8.78 gigawatt of installed power capacity. You can see Rawat Bhata is in Rajasthan, Kakrapar in Gujarat, Tarapur, Maharashtra, Kaiga, Karnataka, and then Narora in UP. So these kind of some words you can use somewhere. Okay. Earlier it is very earlier means a question could have been asked, but now I don't think these kind of question can be asked. But you can give some example. Okay. Now the nuclear energy has been in focus since this budget itself. If you see the 25-26 budget, they have said that a nuclear energy mission will be launched with a budget of 20,000 crore. 20,000 crore for a small modular reactors. Okay. Now what is meant by a small modular reactors? It is very simple. It is around 330 megawatt it can generate. So these are known as 330, sorry, around 300, one third of the normal these can generate. These are known as a small molecular reactors. Okay. Then there are Bharat small molecular reactors also, which are further more compact and they generate around 220 megawatt. Okay. So try to remember these things. These words are very important. Small modular reactors, Bharat modular reactors. Okay. And we have long-term vision of 100 gigawatt by 2047. Means this 8 gigawatt we want to take it to 100 gigawatt by 2047. And we have near target of at least 5 indigenously designed SMRs by 2033. Okay, so this has been in news in last 2 to 3 days also. So try to remember these things. Okay, the nuclear missions, the budget allocation, target, and then what is difference between Bharat and a small modular reactors. Basically, small modular reactors are less dangerous and they can cause less damage. They are very compact and they can be even transported from one place to another. They can be easily assembled. So this is what is meant by a small modular reactors, and countries are working on this, such as Russia, China, on this small modular reactors. Okay. Now we will see one more thing in this aspect is that India's 3-stage nuclear power program. This I am teaching you because a question has been asked in previously related to these topics. Sometimes the topic in news or the theme in news is not directly asked, but it's near around themes are being picked from that topic itself. Okay, so just remember that India follows a 3-stage nuclear power program for its nuclear energy capability enhancement. Okay, and there first is pressurized heavy water reactors, second is fast breeder reactors, and the third is advanced heavy water reactors. Okay, so it was given by the 3-stage program was given by Homi Bhabha. Okay, he was a scientist, so he gave us this program because India does not have enough uranium reserves, but India have thorium reserves in very large quantity. Okay, so in order to use uranium and then start using thorium and then creating energy, electricity from that, Homi Jahangir Bhabha ji gave this 3-stage nuclear power program. Okay, in this what happens is that in first one natural uranium is being used. Okay, it undergoes fission, and then in second one the fuel is mixed with plutonium 239, and then it is called fast breeder. Breeder means it generates more than what it consumes. This much you should keep in your mind. In third one, what happens is that a mix of thorium and uranium is being used. Okay, and the thorium 232 transmutates to uranium 233. Okay, transmutates means one chemical gets changed to another. So this is basically known as transmutation. Okay, by change of proton or by change of neutron. So this word is known as transmutation, so, and which is then being used to power the nuclear reactors. So in this stage, we will be able to achieve self-sufficiency, or we will be able to have advanced capabilities. Okay, so just remember these 3 stages. Now we will see the previous year questions which have been asked from the nuclear energy. This year, these questions have been asked earlier, and you can see that in last 4 to 5 years, no questions have been asked in mains. So this year you can expect some questions either in prelims as well as in mains, because this topic is very much being talked about after the approval of SHANTI bill. Okay. Okay. Now we will read the first question. The first question is, give an account of the growth and development of nuclear science and technology in India. What is the advantage of fast breeder reactor program in India? So in this, give an account of growth and development of nuclear science and technology. So you can just start that what is present installed capacity of 8 gigawatt, isn't it? Growth and development, what we are doing, where we are with fast breeder reactors and where we are with pressurized heavy water reactors. Okay, growth and development of nuclear science. What is the development related to a small modular reactors or Bharat modular reactors in India? Okay, what are the deals which we have done with countries such as USA? Civil nuclear deal with countries such as Canada, Japan. Okay, you can also say. Then what is the advantage of fast breeder reactor program in India? I already said. Advantage is that first, it will make us capable to go to the third. Second, it will decrease the proliferation risk also. Nuclear waste is very less generated. Okay. And in India it is asking. So you can use all those points which I have already said you. Okay. Because we don't have much of the uranium, so thorium can be used. This is a precursor to it. Okay. So these all points you can add. Next. PYQ is related to 2018. Question is, with growing energy needs, should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Discuss the facts and fears associated with nuclear energy. See, so in this case, with growing energy needs, so first you have to justify the question. With growing energy needs, what is the growing energy need of the country? We have more than 140 crore of population, isn't it? We are developing with nearly 8% of growth, one of the highest in the world. Okay, so with growing energy needs, what more? We need industrialization, manufacturing setup, semiconductor setup. Fourth industrial revolution is coming. So for data centers, we all need more and more energy. This is the basic need of growing energy. Now the question is very much very good. With growing energy needs, first you have to justify that there are growing energy needs. Should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy? Means there must be certain concerns related to nuclear energy. Else the question would have been, how can India expand? See the tone, the change of tone of the question in 2017 and 18. Something must have been going on with respect to certain nuclear energy. Some various countries have shut down their nuclear plants, reactors, so that it does not impact their population, or there are various concerns of setting up big nuclear plants. So it is asking, should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Okay. What are the facts and fears? So there you can say whether India should. Yes or no? Yes, you can say. Various regions you have already, you are justifying it with energy needs. No, because you can say that there are certain reservations. Don't tell direct no. Certain reservations related to nuclear energy, such as Fukushima, isn't it? Chernobyl disaster. So these all things you can mention that these problems have happened in the past. So India should be very careful in its approach. Okay. Or there were protests at Kundakulam. People are not very accepting of nuclear energy or something like that. Okay. Now say discuss the facts and fears associated with the nuclear energy. You can say. Okay. And you can mention that in conclusion that nuclear energy mission has been launched, SHANTI bill or act has been passed. These kind of things you can mention and conclude that in order to do this, growing energy needs means it becomes kind of a priority for a country like us, isn't it? Because it helps in low carbon emission is there. Okay, waste reduction is there. So you can say, you can conclude on those lines. So now let us start with the fourth main news, which is related to the Niti Aayog report on research and development in India. Okay, so you can correlate this topic with the indigenization of technology and developing new technology, or the IPR regime also, the patent regime, means why research and development is less, employability. So multiple questions means multiple themes can be linked with this topic. Okay, now we will see what does the report say, means what are the major findings of the report. Okay, so R&D in India as compared to the other countries is very less. In fact, various economic surveys or the various report have said that the share of contribution of GDP, or means the allocation, has been very less in India as compared to its peers or the developing countries such as Israel, US, China. Okay, so it is a persistent problem in India that R&D in research and development, we have to buy, suppose, defense weapons from the other countries because our research and development landscape is not that mature. Okay, so we will see what are the findings of the report. So it said that gross expenditure on R&D is around 0.6% to 0.7% of GDP. Okay, although it has increased in last 2 decades, but it remains 0.6% to 0.7%. Okay, keep this in mind. Funding sources means one of the major problem due to which the research and development landscape has not been able to fulfill its potential is that government sector is the main contributor of this research and development. Okay, so mainly it is led by primarily the government sector itself. Private companies, private institutions are not coming forward in large numbers. Okay, so keep this in mind, 63.6%. And sectoral distribution. So sectoral distribution is agriculture and health. Agriculture leads it by 51%. Then geographical concentration is there. Southern region, 36% of public R&D institutes are there, and in northern only 1.8% of public research and development institutes are there. So you can see there is a stark regional inequality with respect to R&D in India. Then city level clustering, 48% of total central R&D institutions hosted within 10 most populous cities. Okay, so you can see whenever a question is asked related to what is the status or why R&D is not happening very much in India, or what are the problems which India is facing, you can use all this data. Okay, keep this data 0.6% to 0.7%, and then 63% by government sector, then geographical contrast, and then city level clustering. City level clustering you can skip, but geographical contrast you should remember that in southern region 36% of the public R&D institutes are located, whereas in northeast only 1.8%. It is very less. Okay, so there are problems related to this. So a stagnant R&D expenditure, I have already said. Low per capita investment means as compared to the other countries, we have low per capita investment because you are already seeing it, because it is around only 0.6 to 0.7%. So obviously the overall per capita investment also comes to be very minuscule. Low private sector contribution, again the same thing, poor industry synergy. So you can see those points have been written as challenges. All those points which have been written in a status, they can be used in mentioning India's issues related to R&D. Okay, so try to be very innovative in this approach of using one point again and again as per your requirement. Now, of course, there are certain recommendations which have been given by the Niti Aayog so as to bring a very good or improve the conditions which we are in right now, isn't it? So first is proximity to industry clusters. Means they are saying that R&D institutes should be established in proximity to the industry clusters. Means wherever there is industry, so R&D should be established nearby those areas itself. Okay, to facilitate greater collaboration. What will happen? Greater collaboration will happen. You must have seen that in certain countries such as US or UK, there is interdisciplinary collaboration is very much high, whereas at times we work in isolation. Okay, IITs are not associated with AIMS. Something means in some cases we are doing and we are developing right now, but the level of collaboration is not very high. Okay, so in proximity to industry clusters so that greater collaboration can occur. The second is centralized research hubs. Means there should be centralized research hubs which should help in resource sharing, cross industry collaboration. Then collaboration spaces, again industry professionals and entrepreneurs. Okay, promoting innovation. One example is industrial license program of MIT. Use these kind of things. Industrial licensing program of MIT. Okay. Then create technology transfer offices, TTOs, which will enable researchers and companies to transfer technologies to the market. Other recommendation is partner with private enterprises, establish clear IP guidelines, and address infrastructure gaps. So in these kind of things, try to incorporate or use, just remember 5 to 7 keywords which you will be using in all your answers. What are those keywords? This is a good term, technology transfer offices. This is a good case study, industrial licensing program of MIT. Okay, then centralized research hubs, and you will say that it has been recommended by the Niti Aayog. This much is required for you to write a very good answer in related to R&D. Okay, you can also say, suppose if you are reading current affairs, you might be knowing that Anusandhan Research Foundation is being launched. Okay, National Quantum Mission has been launched, National Mission on Artificial Intelligence has been launched, or National Nuclear Energy Mission has been launched. Okay, so these are the steps in right direction. Try to use whatever you are reading. This is the core thing. Okay, so you will have to read less and then you will achieve more. One PYQ we will see related to this question only. The question is very much practical. Okay, scientific research in Indian institutes is Indian universities is declining because a career in science is not as attractive as our business professions, engineering or administration. Okay, and the universities are becoming consumer oriented. Critically comment. So you might be knowing that in these times. Earlier there was too many people wanted to become engineers. Now also it is there. India is one of the largest producers of engineers. So you can say that or MBA they were doing, or preparation of course administrative services or something like that. Okay. So the question asks, scientific research in Indian universities are declining. Why they are declining? They are giving with the reason because they are not attractive as our business professions, engineering or administration, and the universities are becoming consumer oriented. Means now those universities which earlier used to, or some of the universities which earlier used to focus on research, or it was treated with much respect that I am doing some research. Now what is it is being replaced with? It is being replaced with, are you able to give me employment or not? Isn't it? And this of course is very much true in present scenario, especially true in case of India. Why? Because if you see these things, means if you see the pay or the check, how much means a entrant, if it is becoming a scientist at some very famous institutes of India, what pay scale they are getting, and what is in the last time they are able to reach. Okay. And you can see corresponding how much an engineer or a business professional is able to get. Okay, so the industry of research and development is basically becoming consumer oriented. The professional skills they are giving, so that employability is becoming one of the main reason rather than the research. Okay, because we are not able to tap our best talents into research. So keep this in mind, and you can also mention some of the schemes such as Inspire, Imprint. These all initiatives have been taken. Okay, or even women in STEM are very less. Okay, so that is also one of the primary reason. So let us start with our next main news, which is USA has questioned the WTO role as a primary forum for resolving global trade disputes. So this topic is generally in news because the dispute settlement mechanism, or the appellate body of dispute settlement mechanism at WTO has become basically non-functional. Okay, so you can relate this with the important international institutions, agencies, fora and their structure. These kind of questions is being asked that WTO, UN, okay, ECOSAC, these kind of questions have been asked. So we will just have a brief detail about why it is being said. Okay, so the context I have already said. The US has blamed WTO that it is creating global imbalances, and that the forum cannot be is not able to solve the existing and future problems of trading system. Okay, and it has also criticized the basic principle of most favored nation. Okay, so MFN is basically a principle which is being used in WTO so that the countries apply the same level of tariff for a product. Okay, so obviously there are exceptions for FTAs or bilateral agreements if there are, but the countries generally levy the same level of tariff for a product. This is basically the most favored nation concept. First we will understand why USA has questioned this, means why WTO is failing, or what is the role of WTO, or what is the relevance of WTO. In the backdrop of it, the first major thing is related to WTO dispute settlement mechanism. This mechanism has basically now become non-functional. Okay, non-functional because, see, for when WTO was envisaged, there were means if there are certain disputes between one country to the other country, how you can go or how you can improve it. Okay, so it was said that there are various means. First, what happens, that mutually agreed solution. If two countries you agree between yourself, then it is mutually agreed. Second, it's through adjudication, means ruling by a panel. Panel is basically 3 or 5 countries come together and then they give certain rulings, certain reports. Okay, and then they can be challenged at appellate body. This panel ruling can be challenged in appellate body. Now try to understand what has happened at appellate body. Appellate body is apex body for settlement of dispute. Okay, because already certain rulings has been given by a panel. Now you have concerns that the panel has not done a very good thing, or it is discriminatory, or it is biased. Now you will go to the appellate body. In appellate body there were used to be 7 members. Okay, so there were used to be 7 members. What USA has done is that the selection of 7 members has been brought to a very low. Since 2017, it has started issues that basically didn't allow selection of new members. Okay, and basically what happens is that minimum 3 members are required for this body to take decisions, or they form a quorum. Okay, and after 2020, because no new members were selected due to the opposition of USA, there are now 0 members in that body. So there are panel, there is a appellate body, but then you cannot apply the decision of the panel. Means basically it is called as issue known as applying to the void. Means you are not able to apply, you are not able to settle your dispute. So this is what has led to the major problem, the non-functionality of the WTO's dispute settlement mechanism. Now keep this thing in mind, and now we will understand what are the other challenges which are being faced by the WTO. Okay, so regulatory lag is there because the new things such as digital trade, supply chain resilience are not being taken care of. Such as European Union carbon border adjustment mechanism have been imposed, but there are various concerns from other countries also related to this. Okay, then growing imbalance means certain non-market policies earlier which were being used by the China, that has resulted in overcapacity and over-concentration of production, such as China. And this country at times is dumping goods in other countries. Recently you might have also heard that India has imposed certain anti-dumping duties on China's related products. Okay. Then dispute settlement crisis, I have already said. Geopolitical fragmentation, you can see that trade war between USA and China is going on. Protectionism is rising. Okay, so and the consensus deadlock also, the earlier round have also been not concluded. So these are the basically problems. At the heart of it lies the present US tariff wars and the dispute settlement mechanisms non-functionality. Okay, we will see some of the questions which are being asked, although I have not taught it, but these kind of questions which are being asked from the concept of WTO. The terms agreement on agriculture, agreement on the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and peace clause appear in the news frequently in the context of the affairs of the FAO, United Nations, UNFCCC, WTO, or UNEP. Okay, so basically these are the peace clause. These measures, they are basically related to WTO. Okay, peace clause is basically that certain questions cannot be raised at the WTO unless a permanent settlement is reached. That is known as peace clause. Next question is, in the context of which of the following do you sometimes find the news amber box, blue box, and the green box in the news? Okay, so it is basically related to WTO. There are three kind of box, especially related to agriculture. Okay, amber box is basically trying to slow down. Means if you are giving certain subsidies, okay, certain subsidies, you have to slow it down, just like the traffic signal. Okay, slow down means there is a concept called de minimis level, of in which 10% can be given by developing countries and 5% by developed countries. So keep this in mind. Then there is blue box and then there is green box. Green box is basically allowed, and blue box is basically non-distorting, non-trade distorting subsidies are known as blue box subsidies. Okay. Now we will see the main question which have been asked. The questions are, I will read it out for you. Okay. The questions are, the first question is, WTO is an important international institution where decisions taken affect countries in a profound manner. What is the mandate of WTO and how binding are their decisions? Critically analyze India's stand on the latest round of talks on food security. This is a question which has been asked in 2014. So WTO is an important institution. Decisions affect profound manner because it deals with free and fair trade across the country. Okay, and there are various clauses, there are various rules of dealing in the of trade. Okay, and what is the mandate of WTO? You can see mandate is free and fair trade, all these kind of things. And how binding are their decisions? Okay, so you can talk about the panel, appellate body. Okay, all these kind of things. Critically analyze India's stand. So India's stand on food security, basically India says that we have to give food security to our members, to our population, because of certain reasons. You might be aware about the because too many farmers are dependent on it. But then certain countries raise question that it is market distorting, that fair and remunerative prices are not being kept because we give extremely subsidized food grains to the poor persons. Okay, so this is the main issue. Now see, in 2018, what are the key areas of reform if WTO has to survive in the present context of trade war? So trade war was going between USA and China, and what are the key areas of reform should be there, especially keeping in mind the interest of India? Okay, so key areas of reform, all those challenges, geopolitical fragmentation, peace clause, it has Doha round has not been concluded. These all things are the key areas of reforms which should be done, especially in mind keeping the interest of the India. In India, you can always say that India is asking that WTOs should be means these all dispute settlement bodies should be working. Okay, recently you might have also heard that our finance minister said, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, that the trade is neither free nor fair. So in context of US imposition of tariff or the recently announcement of Mexico also, you can see that the trade is becoming neither free nor fair, even when a body such as WTO exists. Okay, so it is a very strong statement because WTO is losing its relevance in this context, unilateral imposition of tariffs, and there is nobody to take care of. Okay, and such as you might have heard about near shoring and friend shoring. Okay, I taught in the last class also that the businesses are being given only to those countries which remain in good banks of the countries. Suppose a country, I have very good relationship with Sri Lanka, so I will give business only to the Sri Lanka. So this is what is happening. So free and fairness is being seen an issue. Free and fair trade is now an issue. Okay, we will start with the place in news called Ethiopia. So the context is basically that our Prime Minister has visited Ethiopia and PM was conferred with Great Honor Nishan of Ethiopia. Okay, so remember this because our PM has got a lot of honors from Russia, France. So remember some of these countries or the name of the countries. Okay, in this Ethiopia is there, so there is no need. Okay, partnership elevated to a strategic partnership. Okay, just look at the map. These all basically called seed countries: Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. Okay, so these are basically called seed countries, and the location is very important because it lies near Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Okay, here also if you see Suez Canal and Suez pipeline is being located, in which a previous year question has also been asked. Okay, how it is being connected? It is very important choke point. Choke point. Okay, because a lot of trade from here happens related to natural gas and petroleum. Okay, we will just a look we will have about the Sumed pipeline. Sorry. So Sumed pipeline is situated here. It links Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea. Okay, so that the product can be passed from here. Okay, just like a Suez Canal, it is also known as Sumed pipeline. It was in use during the Red Sea attacks. Okay, last year. Now we will see one question in this, two questions. Back to back, both of the questions have been asked in 2024. See, Sumed pipeline is a strategic route for Persian Gulf and natural gas shipments to Europe. So the statement is true. Sumed pipeline connects the Red Sea with the Mediterranean Sea. I have shown you. Which of the following statement is correct? So here both are correct, and a statement 2 explains a statement 1. Okay, this question: the Red Sea receives very little precipitation in any form, and no water enters the Red Sea from rivers. So although certain reservations were there from various experts or teachers that no water entered the Red Sea from a river is basically a wrong statement, but UPSC has considered is true, because this in fact is true, because no major water or no major river empties itself into the Red Sea. So this statement is very true. So try to link or try to corroborate your answers always with the UPSC given answers, so that you can get a fair picture of what UPSC is thinking. Now we will move towards the first quick updates, which is known as thalassemia. Okay, so thalassemia, basically these patients of thalassemia have welcomed the introduction of national blood transfusion bill. Okay, so the bill is not that important for us. The question can be asked from this. Okay, so what is thalassemia? It is basically an inherited blood disorder caused by insufficient production of hemoglobin, and it leads to less RBC. Just important these words in your mind: inherited blood disorder, insufficient production of hemoglobin, less and short-lived red blood cells, and it can lead to anemia. And what is the treatment? Generally blood transfusions are being done on a regular level to treat this. Okay, now we will move towards the next news. Next news is related to Operation Thunder. So basically what happened that 2 to 3 organizations carried out a operation for transfer and export related to live animals. So it was coordinated by Interpol and World Customs Organization, and it has support of ICCWBC, International Consortium on Combating Wildlife and Forestry Crime. So just remember, from our point of view, Operation Thunder, live animals coordinated by Interpol and WCO. Okay. The next news is related to nitrofurans. This is very important development related to these kind of chemicals. We often see that UPSC has this habit of asking these kind of questions related to chemical compounds or terms which are being in used or which have been in discussion, because it wants us to know that are you aware of the current development. So in this, FSSAI has directed that collect eggs sample for the presence of nitrofurans. So remember this word, FSSAI has asked that some samples of the eggs should be collected to check the presence of nitrofurans residues. Actually, what are nitrofurans? So basically, it is basically antibiotic. Okay, it is antibacterial antibiotic which are being used in veterinary drugs, means basically for animals, for antibacterial and anti-inflammatory purposes. It is basically banned for use in food producing animals in India. Okay, so it is being banned for food producing animals in India, and it is antibacterial antibiotic. This much you should remember. And what are the concerns? Concerns are it can have carcinogenic impact or mutagenic impact. Okay, so it can lead to cancer. That is the main issue. Nitrofurans, eggs, cancers. Okay. Now we will see a type of question which are being asked from these kind of key terms. Okay, commonly used consumed materials, unwanted or controversial chemicals likely to be found in them. So I think it was asked when Maggie was in news because of monosodium glutamate. So the question, look at the question: lipstick, lead, soft drinks, brominated vegetable oils, Chinese fast food, monosodium glutamate. So these kind of questions you can expect from nitrofurans also. The answer is all are correct. Lipstick has lead. Okay, soft drinks, there is brominated vegetables oils are being used, and in Chinese food monosodium glutamate is used. So just to give you a picture of how questions are asked in this context. Now a very good development, very interesting thing is jumping genes. Okay, so actually what happens is that if suppose this is our DNA. Okay, so a new study has found that bears in Greenland are using jumping genes to modify their DNA. This context is not that important. The concept is important. Okay. So what happens is that a small amount of gene can jump from one place to another. So if suppose this is here, it can come to be here and here. These are basically known as jumping genes. Jumping genes are also known as transposons or transposable elements. Transposons means transfer of positions. So one position it can be changed. Now we will study what it is. It is a mobile genetic element that can move from one location to another within a genome. Within a genome, keep this in mind. Depending on insertion site, they can alter the expression of gene. Means if it is placed here or if it get placed here, it can alter the expression of genes. Okay, but means the outcome can be changed. Now, it was discovered by Barbara McIntosh, who won the Nobel Prize in 1983 for this work, also important. And transposons make up about 45% of the human genome. See, these kind of lines are very important. The question which will be framed is that they are very minuscule, around 2 to 3%. No, they are around 50%. 45% of the human genomes are made up of transposons. They are jumping genes which can be moved from one place to another. Now, this is a very important development. Actually, what happened is that TNPB has been developed by Indian ICCAR CRRI Cuttack, and it is also a transposon associated nucleus. This much you should remember. In this concept itself, I think GLO-Cas9 has also been used. Okay, Cas9 is, as you know, it is a molecular seizure, and GLO is related to when you use that seizure, that will glow where the change is happening. Okay, just brief things. Now, the another point is, another term in news was autophagy. Autophagy, we will see first what is the context of this. Autophagy researchers have uncovered a missing link in autophagy, offering potential therapeutic insights for Alzheimer, Parkinson's and cancer. Okay, now what is autophagy? In fact, I think the Nobel Peace Prize in Medicine was also given in year 2016. Autophagy is related to a cellular process in which cells remove and recycle damaged or dysfunctional components. So if suppose this is a part, okay, and these are the dysfunctional components or damaged one, so cells remove this from here. They basically swallow it. Okay, so this is known as autophagy. So it helps us clear toxic proteins. Of course, we have said damaged or dysfunctional. So it will clear out toxic proteins and support cellular repair, energy balance and survival under stress also. And it is linked to protection against neurodegenerative diseases and cancer. Okay, so name of that scientist, Yoshimori Osumi, which was awarded the 2016 Nobel Prize for this discovery. Okay, so Keep these terms are very important as prelims are coming near. Okay. Now this news I have brought just for you to mention, just to remember where are petro caves. जैसे India and Jordan have signed a twinning agreement between UNESCO sites of Petra and Ellora caves. So these both, as we already know that Ellora caves are in Maharashtra and they are included in the UNESCO heritage sites. So in the same way, petro caves are in Jordan. Remember this much only. Okay, petro caves in Jordan. A match the following question can be asked. Okay, Ellora caves you already know that they are located in Maharashtra near Ilaganga river. Okay, and their origin is based on from 600 to 1000 CE. Rashtrakuta and Yadava dynasty basically contributed to it. Okay, and in religion, all these religious means idols, monuments, architectures are being found over there. And Petra's caves, they are known as Rose City due to pink sandstone. Pink sandstone, remember? Okay. This is all. Now we will move towards the last term in news, which is Kessler syndrome. Okay. Kessler syndrome you might have heard earlier also. Basically, a new clock metric institute, or you can say organization, they said that it phases, a Earth satellite fleet phases the cascading effect leading to Kessler syndrome. So Kessler syndrome is basically cascading effect. Means suppose you are standing in a line and the line is very much full, and if one person falls, so all person, each and everyone falls. Okay. So in the same way, Kessler syndrome is related to a space debris. A space debris means if certain satellites or certain missions, there are remnants of certain missions in a space. So what happens is that suppose this is a particular object which has been left, and then it gets destroyed into multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it interacts with it and it again get divided into further, and then this cascading effect is known as Kessler syndrome. Means it may prove very dangerous for our existing satellites because the number of satellites are being increasing. You might have heard about the various initiatives taken by various governments to put their satellites in orbit. So there is very much danger. Okay. So he predicted it, Don Kessler, and it is being named after him, that a single collision in orbit triggers a chain reaction of debris strikes. In such a situation, fragments from one destroyed satellite can collide with other, leading to hazardous impact. Okay, so this is all. Okay, whenever you study, whenever you read, try to incorporate the various dimensions from which questions can be asked or how it can be framed. Okay, so this is all from my side for today. If you want to read more on it and remain updated, you can go and see Digital Current Affairs. Okay, visionis.in current affairs on the go reading, wherein updated news today or the monthly magazine you can easily read. Okay, thank you everyone.